The title of our project is Providing Quantitative Insights for Duke Women's Soccer. So essentially what that means is that we are given a data set, which is event level data of every action committed in every Division I women's soccer match in the last 2 seasons, right? So 2021 and 2022. As you can imagine, that's a lot of data, right? Like any passes, crosses, touches, penalties, fouls, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It goes on, right? It's like tens of millions of rows, right? So then now we're tasked with this job, given this data set, how can you draw a conclusion from this, right? We're obviously working for Duke Women's Soccer, so our bias or our focus is really towards help Duke be successful, and then providing actionable insights and actionable recommendations based on the data.
The goal is to be able to present the coaches with this information in the dashboard, and they will build on that and use that in their preparation. So yeah, mainly just trying to streamline the process of coaching.
While talking to the coaches, okay, we want to cut this down to only Power 5 teams. So that tens of millions of rows turned into 2 million rows, which is still a lot, but is not nearly as monumental as looking at every Division I team and every action they've committed.
It's all well and fine, telling me and speaking the language of stats and computer science about what they've done, but being able to contextualize that into the game of soccer and be able to explain it in a practical way to people that do not have a technical background was really, it's an important skill for these students to have developed, and honestly for any data science student.
And the end goal is to have a dashboard which is almost complete, and then that will be accessible for the soccer coaches in the Duke Women's Soccer team, and then also the players, so that they can use it to try to look at different parts of their play and ways that they can improve, or strengths and weaknesses.
Just getting pure raw data, it's very objective, doesn't really tell a story yet. Using our hypotheses, using knowledge about soccer, and then making a model or making kind of a simulation of a game, and then just saying, okay, now we've turned this data into something that a human can interpret very easily. So yeah, it's a great process, and it's not just in soccer. This happens all the time. You have data, and you want to make a story out of the data. So I think that was a great experience to have.
Collaboration between people in different fields is, that is a very fundamental part of data science, but it's also an important part in many other fields as well. In fact, you often find sometimes the most exciting research happens at the intersection of different fields. And by definition, if you have research that you're doing at the intersection of different fields, you're going to be interacting with people with a different background from yours who don't necessarily speak the same language that you do. And so being able to explain the concepts that you're interested in, that you're exploring, not in the language of your academic bubble, but just practically, and for people that don't speak that language is actually very important.
Sometimes you feel like, these coaches, some of them have played professional soccer, right? Like they're much older, much more experienced than us. They're a coach for a reason at a good school. So us telling them that you guys should be doing this while you're doing this sometimes feels wrong, right? Because it feels like they know better than we do, and just the eye test should tell. It should be a great indicator about what we should do or what we should not do, but we're coming in here and saying, actually the data says this, the data says that you should do this. So I guess it's making that leap and being confident, really, like the confidence in your answers and the confidence in your models. We ended up coming up with a couple of different things. We came up with radar plots, for example. If you don't know what that is, it's basically kind of like a circle, and then you have an x-axis or some axis, and you have different stats along the circle, the edge of the circle, right? So you can see oh, this team performed well in this metric, but not as well in this metric, and pretty average in this metric, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that goes around the circle, and then now you have one comprehensive totality of whatever you care about for that team. And then once you have that, now it's a visual. Now it's easier for us to interpret, easier for the coaches to interpret.
Does eigenvector centrality actually mean in a game, for example? Like, what does that mean not in the language of computer science, but in the language of soccer? What does that mean?
So like finding the balance between actually building the tools and then also like understanding what they're saying and being able to give insight based on what they're saying, I think has been, and that's like the area that I want to grow the most in the future, is being able to actually use the tools and not just like hand them off to a client and have them use them, but being able to know what they're saying and get insights from like what we're building as well.
If you're a Duke student, then you definitely want to have some Duke pride. So knowing that just maybe we'd have a little bit of an impact on the coaching staff or the players and our play style is definitely, I guess, comforting, or like it's good to know that maybe I could have used my skills, not on the soccer field, but my skills, data cleaning or making models, and that might have an impact on the coaches and how they coach our team, and made a change and gave them more information. So I think that's definitely a great thing to have.
This Data Plus specifically was just like a great opportunity to get experience working with data and learn how to build different models, and kind of put into practice like what we learn in the class, which is like very different when they give you problem sets and like specific things that they expect you to do, and like there's right or wrong answers. Just like having the experience of like hands-on working with the data and trying to create our own project has been like a really great experience.